All right, so we're talking about Shang-Chi, and we wanted to have a discussion basically comparing the fight scenes and the fight choreography in this movie to the rest of the Marvel universe, the other fights that we've seen in Marvel movies and the TV shows now. So what did you guys think as far as how it's
so we only got to watch this movie once, where I feel like, at least for me, I've watched a lot of the other movies multiple times. So in terms of fight scenes, something about this movie felt different. Felt like we mentioned it before in our previous videos, like there was a more Jackie Chan style to it. Because I believe you said that the stunt team was...
Jackie Chan's stunt team. Jackie Chan
was involved.
Affiliates.
Which is interesting because it definitely increased my anticipation going into the movie. But Disney generally, not necessarily for Marvel, but Disney has disappointed with bringing on renowned fight choreographers and not utilizing them properly. So I was excited, but I was tempering my excitement. The movie that I'm referring to is Star Wars, The Force Awakens. They brought the fight choreographers from the Raid movies, and you wouldn't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was going to say, no, let's not forget Milan. Milan had a lot of professional...
God. Let's not talk about Milan.
That wasn't utilized as well, so I understand where you're coming from.
So Disney generally has not delivered as far as fight choreography. Even when they bring on talented people, for whatever reason, they just don't go to that level. And so I was going into this, I was excited because I'm like, Jackie Chan's stunt team, let's go. But this movie did really good, and you could tell that it was inspired by Jackie Chan.
It had the spirit of
Jackie Chan's previous work in there, and I was really excited to see it.
Yeah, you can see it like in the bus scene. You can see it in the scaffolding fight. I'm always going to talk about those scenes.
Yeah,
but it's true, because it's like anytime I see someone like fighting on a bus, I'm like, this is just like Police Story. Or like on a scaffolding, like this is just like Rush Hour.
Yes,
and it's great. I think one thing that stands out to me too is like everyone has a definitive fighting style in here, because from the beginning, the way it's set up, it's like a traditional like Eastern Kung Fu, like Hong Kong cinema house movie, the way they set it up. And it's like, you can't just have the vibe and the style without good fight choreo. There's even like that whole like romantic fight between the mom and the dad, like that has like classic line work. Like they're floating and flying around. You get the rings, you get, I've seen, if you guys have seen like Kung Fu Hustle, it's like, the tailor uses like rings too, and like kind of in a cool way. And then you've got bow staff fighting. They're using swords, archery, and like, it's all very like derivative in a good way of like stuff that's in those classic like Asian Kung Fu movies and all those older movies.
I will say though, they had a lot of good stunts for sure, but I feel like the signature Jackie Chan style wasn't like replicated, I guess. Which was fine. They're not trying to copy Jackie Chan exactly.
You can't.
Because Jackie Chan just uses so many different tools in his arsenal when he fights. Like it's not just hand to hand. He always uses like an umbrella or a ladder or a bench.
They did a little bit. They had Shang-Chi using his environment to his advantage in a lot of different scenes, and I really like that. But yeah, to your point, it doesn't necessarily go as far. And one of the things that I think limits it from going as far as a lot of the classic Jackie Chan and other kung fu fight scenes that we are familiar with is the fact that they, I think, overuse CGI in a lot of the fight scenes.
I agree. Although my thing with the CGI, one thing that I liked was that with the camera work, I did love those long shots. I feel like it forgave, especially the ending CGI fest. My reason why I'm not so hating on that was because they did this nice, cool camera work where it's like, okay, I'm so taken by this that I don't care that you could see this like 3D model.
That's the pro and con. Like you can go into those, you can get those super cool shots of like different weapons like going on in different ways by using CGI, as opposed to using practical effects, where if you're using a practical effect or you're having your actors fight practically and just train and film it that
Yeah.
way, it limits the kind of shots that you
But
can get.
even then, I'm going to argue that their CGI fights are still better than most of the MCU CGI fights.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. The first
Absolutely.
thing that comes to mind,
For
other
sure.
than Black Widow, would be Black Panther. I did not like the final CGI
Yeah.
fight,
That's the point, yeah.
which
The final-
looked like
It looked like a-
PlayStation
it looked
2
like a video
characters
game
for
fighting.
sure.
That was not really great for me.
That's a fair
so
point.
when I think of that and I
Yeah.
think of this movie, it's 10 times better here.
It's definitely a step up. And it's like in these days, you know, actors are made of different stuff. Like Jackie Chan is like a
Simu Liu
breed.
is not Jackie Chan.
No, Jackie Chan is a breed of his own.
Yeah.
He was like hurting himself like
All the
a
time.
lot.
Yeah.
Those like crazy like you know
Man.
after credit like you know blooper reels. They were not blooper reels. They were like injury reels. With Jackie Chan. And like in these days, there's just so much more red tape with like
Yeah,
productions.
yeah.
Like this is a Marvel movie. Like it's a moneymaker. Everything has to be like on time, efficient. And this is why actors like they are encouraged to not do stunts anymore. It's bad when actors do stunts because if they get hurt, production's halted for months, you know,
Yeah.
depending on the severity of the
Yeah.
injury.
But I think we still like we the audience still appreciates it because Tom
No.
Cruise is 50 some years old and he's breaking his foot doing practical effects, like doing
Yeah.
practical
I agree.
stunts.
I love practical effects,
Yeah.
stunts, practical props, and
Yeah.
sets. I love
agree.
everything practical. Trust me, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, I understand the reasoning for
Yeah,
having
definitely.
some
Yeah,
CGI, and it does limit things because when you have the actor not really fighting all the time or not using, you know, weapons for real, like that's it's
can
gonna,
tell.
Yeah, exactly.
You can tell.
But
gonna
I
take
also
away.
think it benefits again with one, the camera work, but two, it's like we have to also remember that he's also super being, right? He has superpowers. So when you balance those together, I think
Shang-Chi have powers?
I mean, with the
Towards the
rings,
end.
The rings.
Towards the
Towards the
end.
end.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
okay,
The rings,
okay.
obviously.
Yeah.
Well, there's times where he did kick somebody and they flied out. I did remember
he's a
that.
strong dude.
whatever. I'm not. Whatever. We'll just call it pure strength. But like stuff like that, this is where CGI really tremendous as well, because it's like if you compare it to all these other super beings, where it's like, oh, they have superpower. Let's just like Man of Steel, not to hate on it, but it's like you could see the choreo there, where it's like they rely much on the CGI and like people are just doing whatever, right? But with
No
an actual
holds barred.
professional martial arts, it's not just like you get this CGI punch, but you're doing professionally well. So it's like that
But I
also
think-
has an impact.
And I think that depends on the type of character you're talking about. Like somebody like Superman,
Yeah, of course.
is not a martial artist.
Although he has his own form of martial arts, but that's a different story. That's a different story.
In the comics.
In the comics,
in the
we'll put
comics,
it-
but
we'll
like
put
in
it
the
at-
movies, he's not a martial artist.
Obviously, that's
and,
fair.
and that goes to like Iron Man is going to fight differently from Captain America. Is going to
That's
fight
fair.
differently from Shang-Chi, and so I guess we can also look at the other Marvel movies.
Yeah, we can compare.
specifically.
Yeah.
The thing that I was comparing this to was Black Widow and Captain America. Black Widow, we've seen her character do a lot of really interesting like fight choreography, and I think honestly, in Marvel, Black Widow's character, the way that they have her fight is really good. I've always appreciated the fight scenes that I have
Yeah,
with
sure.
with Black Widow. They're very smart in the style that they give her as far as like her flips and her the judo throws.
Yeah,
that she
judo,
does.
throwing,
Yeah.
like, grappling sometimes.
Yeah, I can appreciate the style, but I feel like the way they film it is a little too like choppy to me. Like they cut.
It
cut,
has to
cut.
be.
Yeah.
She has like tons of doubles and
Yeah, it's very common.
Which is that's the problem with a lot of general action movies is they chop it up too much.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, Captain America, his fight in Winter Soldier with Winter Soldier is, for me, and I think a lot of people, one of the best Marvel fights ever. I think I was thinking about the reasons why I like that fight and the reasons why
Which part are you talking
I
about?
like Shang-Chi.
In the middle where like he was doing knife work and what?
Yeah. That middle
Because there was an
fight.
ending fight too.
That's true. But that middle fight is super interesting. I think for whatever reason they kept the shots longer, and also you could tell it was pretty much all practical in that fight. I don't know. I mean, I've rewatched it a couple times, but if they used CGI, it didn't seem like it was excessive, and it didn't really take me out of it as much as the CGI in Shang-Chi took me out of it a little bit, or it made me realize, okay, this isn't real, right? But with the Captain America fight with Winter Soldier, is like, oh my god, like it felt real.
Yeah. Same thing with the one in Civil War when he's against when it's him and Bucky against Iron Man.
Yes,
that was another.
That's another fantastic fight, and that one obviously it's CG because they're fighting a robot. They're fighting a robot man, so it's like obviously that's CG. But the way that they did it, it felt real.
It was pretty.
And I think maybe it was because both of those movies were directed by the Russo brothers. Yeah. Maybe that had something to do with it. But
I think the stakes were higher. More was on the line, I feel like.
Yeah, that's another thing.
That was part of it, was the atmosphere.
I definitely feel like, and that's one thing I will give a little bit of criticism for Shang Chi, that I don't really feel too much weight with most of the fights. I do feel like they lost a lot of weight. The only fight that had somewhat of it was when he was against his father. But other than that, it just, and even that fight was more of like trying to stop his father from doing something, which it's still a fight, but there's just no weight into it. So it's like, it's cool. I mean,
it's fair because this is the first movie that they don't have the time that the other Marvel movies had to build up the characters.
That's true. And I will give it that, but I do feel like in general, most action movies, like even all the famous martial art movies, like the Ip Man movies, the weight in that final fight scene makes it really.
The stakes were really high, though. That whole movie kind of builds up to the final fight.
Yeah, so that's the one thing I will give it to.
When Ip Man fought like 10 Japanese karate people.
Yes, I think it was intense. In the second movie, right?
No, that was the first movie. That was the first one. He fights all the men. He does the like he's making meat.
But you're right. You guys are right. Like the stakes do contribute to how good the atmosphere of the fight is, which contributes to how good the fight is too.
Yeah.
So I think the Civil War and Winter Soldier, they set it up pretty well. Like Bucky's his friend, but I mean, he didn't know that at the time. But
it's so gritty, and like, I guess Shang-Chi was fighting against like kind of like really well-trained assassins, and he was also very well-trained. So it didn't even feel like, in some of these other movies, it feels like a fight for your life, and you feel that. Like you feel that from Ip Man, you feel that from like Captain America, Winter Soldier, and other kung fu films.
But I will argue that, say like Jackie Chan again, right? Most of it is comedy action.
That's true.
And still the fights are like great to watch.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. And I guess it depends where. It really goes back to where they want to put the strength in the fight. Do you want to put the strength in the fight in meaty in terms of like, these characters build up the ideals being battle, or do we want to put the strength in the fight within the creativity, the choreography? Because if that's the case, then for sure, Shang-Chi again is so far been the most. Well, you can argue it's been the most creative as I've seen so far. I can't think it's.
I think it's the most creative in terms of the fighting, because like. Again,
I don't know, because there is that scene where you see what's his name, you have Captain America in the elevator and he's fighting all those people. Like I think that alone is a very interesting context. But I get you what you're saying, because a lot of times with Shang-Chi they play, again, Jackie Chan inspired, so they play with the elements, they play with all this other stuff.
Yeah, I enjoyed the concept of him fighting people in the elevator, but I feel like the choreography isn't as memorable for me.
Yeah,
and maybe because I just watched Shang-Chi, but also because I just really liked some of the last fights. I know you guys don't like it as much because of the CGI, but I thought it was very creative how they used the 10 rings. And him with his father, you said that they don't have much, you didn't feel the weight, but I still appreciated that it was a father-son fight.
Yeah, it definitely was.
There was some emotion behind it.
There was, obviously, especially when he talked about. That's what I love about that whole moment where he's like, "Oh man, I might have to kill my father." Like that to me was like, "Oh snap! This isn't just gonna be like, let me stop my father." It's like I'm gonna have to kill this guy who trained me. So that's what added more weight to it. But one thing I will say about Shang-Chi is that this goes back to the problem where the movie felt like a different thing. I feel like, as much as I did like the creativity they did with the CGI fights, I still feel like the fights in the beginning were a little bit more better in my eyes.
I agree with that.
I feel
sentiment.
like they kind of downgraded it as it became more of a like, well, we got to have a war.
Then it was like less practical stuff and more CGI, which is like, I mean, as good as it was, it's, you have to acknowledge that it is like fully CGI. But I also, to like Scott's point, the way they utilized the rings was great.
Yeah,
you have lots of characters with like CGI powers and weapons, right? You have people with magic like Doctor Strange and Wanda. This is more akin to that than like a practical weapon, right? Like the rings are CGI.
It's not
but
a
the
shield.
fact that it's like part choreo, part CGI is very cool to me. So I appreciate that at least because he's gonna have the rings either way. Might as well make it look cool.
I think one of the best CG fights was definitely Thanos versus the Avengers.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
Thanos versus the three Avengers
when they were in
Endgame.
Titan.
Yeah, exactly.
On Titan. Yeah.
That was a great
at the
fight.
end of Infinity War.
That might be the
Yeah.
I think I have to think about this more and watch both of them again, but I think that's probably the best CGI fight out of the entire MCU.
Yeah, I agree.
It's between that, the airport fight, and the fight between the three of them.
I'm not gonna lie, the airport fight was kind of messy to me. Like
I get that.
when everybody was just like
It's
fighting each other,
chaotic.
they have to like cut.
I agree with that.
But with the Thanos fight, everybody's freaking chucking stuff at Thanos, and there's like a focus there, you know.
Yeah.
It does have one of my favorite moments is when Iron Man gets that hit in and it's like all for a drop of blood.
Yeah, dude.
All that stuff.
It's great. Like Spider-Man gets his moment.
No. Yeah.
Doctor Strange has a great CGI fight with him
exactly.
cloning himself, all the whips, all the butterfly stuff. It's just, it was an amazing CGI fight.
I think the common thread is like there's a hint of like desperation behind like
obviously.
one or both parties,
Yeah.
and and you can see that in the way that like the actors are acting and in every movement. And I think the emphasis on that was great in these fights.
Those were also Russo brothers.
Yeah, good for
Russo
them.
brothers.
What are some other ones that we can compare it to? Because we can't just say like, okay, yeah, Shang-Chi has some of the best stuff, but we have to compare it to the other best stuff, I guess. And I would say, again, I do think the Titan fight was probably the best CGI fight, but I have to think about it more. But
yeah, I mean, we already talked about Winter Soldier. We already talked about Civil War.
But if we go on like one-on-one fights, I still think him versus his dad is probably better than anything I can think of at the moment.
Really?
I would probably still put Bucky versus Cap as
I don't know. I liked the style of the CGI fight more, just because it was somewhat reminiscent of a little bit of Dragon Ball and just
I see what you're saying.
A little bit of anime. You know what I mean?
I see. That's again. It goes back to like what you're looking for, because like creativity wise, I definitely think it's unique, and I definitely would give it that on creativity. But I guess overall, like consistency, especially with the Civil War or even Winter Soldier, I feel like they're, number one, it's consistent, and number two, it builds up to like that final climax and whatnot.
Also, these movies are very far along that whole like plot line and that mythos. Like these are all sequels or follow-ups to the standalones. This is the introduction to Shang-Chi. So I'm sure we're gonna get like dark Shang-Chi later on, and they're gonna up the ante. I think maybe they did pull punches. Maybe they held back because they knew down the line that there was gonna be a sequel and that they need to like up the ante.
Lean into that anime-ish.
I agree. I 100% agree.
All the protagonists always go dark at some point.
Let's lean to that. I want some crazy like someone getting knocked to an island kind of fights. Like I want that for Shang-Chi.
I kind of wanted to like see
get some evil Ryu
who would you guys like to see him fight against? Like
which of the Avengers?
Anyone in the series or?
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna be honest. I feel like a 10 Rings can beat most of the Avengers.
Really? I mean, he's not beating Thor.
I hope so.
Maybe not Thor, but I mean, like
he's not beating Goku.
That's good.
He's not beating Goku though.
I don't think he takes like Prime Hulk.
You don't think he takes?
I don't think so. I mean, yeah.
No,
if they're fighting each other,
you.
I feel like. That's an interesting one. That's hard to, because I feel like we don't have too many like examples of a great Hulk.
I'm not saying who you think would win. I'm like, who would you want to see him fight?
I would want him to
fight Hulk.
I want to see him fight Hulk. Yeah,
I think he could hold his own against Hulk.
He could.
With the
I
10
mean, he could
rings.
at least try not to get hit.
I would love to
He
see
has
it.
the dragon scales. Like he got a really bad hit from his dad, and he almost he was fine. Like he was like he could have drowned, but he didn't.
He blasted open an evil dragon that like took over some worlds and like sucked souls and whatnot. You know what I mean?
That's true.
I mean, he had the dragon's help.
But Hulk has a smaller mouth. So how are we gonna?
How
we gonna? If he can make the rings really small, then game over. It's just a stomach.
I would love to see him fight Doctor Strange. That'd be an interesting fight.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like magic, other kind of like CGI power users, like magic users. Maybe like Wanda and Doctor Strange both at once.
Oh,
that would
dang.
be cool.
Wanda.
Okay, maybe I'll retract my statement. I think he can hold his own against most of the Avengers.
Okay.
Maybe not like beat them, but like definitely it would be a good fight.
Yeah, definitely.
He's in this weird kind of classification where it's like hand to hand without the 10 rings. Like I think he would do a good job also, and it would be great to see him fight like other human characters, and then with the rings,
like Hawkeye, he would wash all of the
Black Widow,
hand-to-hand,
and
yeah.
well, I mean, not that we're ever gonna see her again, but,
no,
but like I don't know, her sister, Steve. But we'll see. And when he has the rings on, he has the capacity to go against like the even bigger, more cosmic.
I think he can beat Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Here we go.
Oh, see,
Here we go.
For you, it goes without saying.
You know what? I think I might agree with you.
Sure. You brought up a good point that we are comparing to movies that have had stronger build-ups, but like besides the stronger build-up movies, I think, if we compare it to standalones, I definitely think it's the best standalone. I can't think of any other standalone
It's so
that better
good.
fight.
Yeah, because when we do fight when they actually do fight choreography, usually the fights are more memorable and just have a different feel than like compared to say like a good fight that I liked because of the context of it was Thor versus Hulk in that stadium in Ragnarok. Like it was just funny and it was just like
I see.
like good moments, but it wasn't an actual good fight choreography.
Okay,
you know?
yeah.
So
That's
it's just like hammers hitting each other, them flying far away. It's cool, but it's not like a great memorable fight.
Which is interesting. So maybe this is an issue with Marvel generally because they haven't really spent a lot of time or focus on creating great choreographed fight scenes. Other than because I'm like trying to think of movies outside of the Russo brothers movies and this Shang Chi. They kind of just take the easy superheroes punch fly far away.
Yeah, like for example, going back to Black Panther, I literally felt like the final fight when they all just go up to each other and punch each other. Same thing with Shang Chi.
But even in Black Panther, they do have some good hand-to-hand fight.
They do
choreo.
a little bit.
They have the fight for
in the water
to become king.
Yeah.
In the water. Those are great moments. So I'll give that movie that credit.
Yeah.
But then.
But it's like you think about like Doctor Strange or Ant-Man, and it's like they're just kind of all throwing each other around.
And Russo brothers proved that you don't need to just do the whole like typical you hit them and they throw them out. You could do something interesting.
Yeah.
That keeps you engaged, especially with like the way he uses Doctor Strange, the way he uses Star-Lord, all of those people is more interesting than their fight scenes in their own movies.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah.
Even Iron Man especially.
Yeah, Iron Man especially.
There's no Iron Man fight that is better than his fights with in Captain America and in the Avengers movie. I don't know. I guess it comes down to whoever's at the helm of these movies.
Yeah, every director has their own signature style. They're gonna lean into their strength. Taika Waititi is gonna lean into the comedy, and Russo brothers are gonna have their fight scenes, and maybe Shang-Chi will get the Russo brothers treatment down the line.
Man.
We shall
That would
see.
be
That's gonna be
fantastic.
crazy.
But I also just want I hope there's another director who can come in and also has that same skill. And
For another movie,
for another movie. I don't want it to just be the Russo brothers who has to do all of these things. I hope they can cultivate that, but we'll see what happens.
Jackie Chan.
And to be fair, this movie was obviously they had focus on the fights.
They did.
So
They did.
a big part of it is like the fights, the action.
I think
that's
going
it.
back to Shang-Chi specifically, for future stuff, I hope that they continue with what they've done, but they also try to be a little bit more practical. I hope if they could somehow combine the practicality of like the Civil War and Winter Soldier fights with the flashiness and the acrobatics of the Shang-Chi movie, I think that would be
that'd be perfect,
pristine.
That'd be perfect.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
And hopefully they have more actors that are like trained in martial arts. Like, what if we saw like Donnie Yen in a Shang-Chi film or Jackie Chan, dude? What the heck? That'd be cool.
Jackie Chan himself was
Jackie Chan himself just appears as Jackie Chan.
I want to see something where it's like he fights another monster, but then like I don't know, like one arm he's fighting one monster, another arm he's fighting two monsters. So it's like, like if I could see that from Shang-Chi, I'm gonna be like
with like Ip Man fist, like
yeah,
super
something
fast,
like that. Because like the way his dad was just knocking everybody, like that was dope. I'm not gonna lie, the moments where his father just comes in, I'm the head G. I'm like, Jesus.
I love those scenes too.
Those scenes did feel visceral.
You're talking about like the restaurant, right?
Yes, the restaurant.
When he avenged his wife.
Yeah.
Oh
He's not a good
God,
dude, but that scene did get me hype. It reminded me of old action movies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he looked like a gangster, like
Yeah,
with
he
that suit, that
was.
get up, and he's like, don't look at me or my son ever again, kind of get up.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And then the way he goes to the son, he's like, you're gonna help me, right, boy? I'm like, oh God.
That was a great moment.
That's why I love the 10 Rings whenever they're in action. It's just you feel the impact and it's great.
Yeah.
oof, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Painful.
man.
They did a good job with that.
Yeah.
Painful, deadly. They're great. They're not to be messed with.
Absolutely.
But yeah, in general, I want to see Shang-Chi just want to like, he's fighting like interdimensional demons, but it's like a Jackie Chan style where it's like, he may have like, he's stuck, like one hand is stuck. So he's like, oh, whoops. Like if they could do that, that would be promising.
I want to see the rings on his legs and he does some like kicking, like
Ooh.
some
They
good kicking choreo.
Yeah, they did that with like some of the kicks.
Yeah,
with
we
his
need kicks.
fight against his dad.
For sure.
I'm thinking back to
Yeah,
like Kung Fu
kicking.
Hustle again, like the coolie and like mostly kicks. Like that would be a cool scene if like his arms were bound and he had to use the rings with his legs. Yo, that'd be
That'd
sick.
be cool. That would be. Well, if you have any thoughts on how you think the fights in Shang-Chi stack up against the rest of the Marvel movies, even other superhero movies in general, definitely put them down in the comments below. And make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you later.
Peace.
Peace.